I dated around a lot in college, never staying in a relationship for very long. It wasn't that there was something wrong with all those young ladies. I just wasn't ready to settle down yet. Now, someone would say I just hadn't met the right girl yet. That someone would be my wife. And yes, honey, all those years I was waiting for you to show up and didn't even know it. So you are right. By senior year, I was tired of all that dating around stuff. I wanted a meaningful relationship. That's when I met Holly, and she was cute, and she had a vivacious spirit, and she was confident in her faith and fun to be around, and she grew up with the same kind of family values that I had. So I knew that she was the girl for me. But did she know that I was the guy for her? There seemed to be some doubts about that. I tried my best to make a good impression on her. I showed her what a great athlete I was on the volleyball court and in the softball field, but she didn't seem to appreciate that. I charmed her with my wit and my good looks and my enchanting personality, but she wasn't impressed with any of those. I had a good job and actually had a lot of money and took her out on some real dates to concerts and nice restaurants, but that wasn't working either. I even had a motorcycle and I got her out on the road and she could feel the exhilaration of the wind blowing through her hair. But at one point, as we were rounding taking a turn, a very slow turn onto a side street, and I accelerated to go up the hill, she slid right off the back of that motorcycle. I didn't have a sissy bar or a backrest. I looked back, and there she was, sitting in the middle of the street with her helmet on. She wasn't injured, but she was just sitting there. We laugh about that now, but she wasn't laughing then. Things were not working out very well for me in the relationship. Maybe that's why, by the time of our 6th date, she still had not allowed me to kiss her. On one of our dates, what was that? On one of our dates, she told me that another guy had offered to take her to the Cincinnati Reds baseball game that night, but she went out with me instead. But now she was thinking she would rather have gone to the game. On our date, she said that. And the first time that I told her I loved her, her response was, "What, Holly?" "I like you." Oh, just stabbed me in the heart. Then she told me that she had come to Cincinnati Bible College because she wanted to be a missionary. I was not going to be a missionary. Actually, I had already been approached by a mission organization in Australia. They wanted me to come and join their group after graduation, but I declined. I didn't want to go to a foreign field and raise my children in a culture that was foreign to me. I didn't want to live that far away from extended family. I didn't want to subject a prospective wife and children to any of the risks that a mission field might hold. I wasn't going to be a missionary. And so I thought, there's no future in this relationship. But we continued dating, and at some point, I think she must have considered me to be her mission field. She must have felt that God was calling her to make something worthwhile out of my life. And she still is attempting to make something worthwhile out of my life. So it's worked out pretty good. The truth of the matter is, we are all missionaries. The New Testament image of the church that we will explore today is that of a missionary, the church as a missionary. We will see that in the final words that Jesus spoke to his followers before leaving this earth. Those final words must certainly have been the most important message he felt he could leave with his church as he was departing from this world and leaving them in it without his physical presence. We call those words that he spoke the Great Commission. Here's the way that is worded in Matthew 28, beginning in verse 18. Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Those are words of great value because they are his words. Jesus identified himself in these words that he spoke to his followers as having the authority to speak these words. All authority, he said, in heaven and on earth has been given to me. There is no greater authority, in other words, than Jesus over his church. He is the Lord of the church. He leads the church. It is his church. And so he gives the church this commission, this mission to go out on, to make disciples in every nation. The church is a missionary. The church doesn't merely send out missionaries. The church is a missionary. We are the church. Therefore, we are missionaries. These words that he spoke of commission to us, a mission for us, are important words because they are his final words. Final words are important, aren't they? If you knew you were dying, you would probably want to say what you felt was most on your heart to your family and friends in those final moments you spent with them. Maybe the things you most wanted them to hear. Words of advice, perhaps, or words of assurance as you leave this world, or certainly words of love. On occasion, I have the opportunity to counsel the dying in their final hours, and I always encourage them to say everything they want to say to their family and friends, the things that they think their family and friends most need to hear from them. The last words of several famous people have actually been recorded. I've selected a few to share with you. Conrad Hilton, who built the huge Hilton Hotels empire, was asked if he had any words of wisdom to share with the world as he died. And he said yes. Leave the shower curtain on the inside of the tub. Apparently the hotel business was in his blood. Certainly you would say something much more important to that than that at a time like that. When Robert Kennedy was shot while giving a campaign speech as he ran for United States president in 1968, his final words were these: "Is everyone else all right?" How admirable those final words are, right? In a time when he was dying, his thoughts were of others. Edgar Allan Poe, who struggled with alcohol and drug abuse through his life and toyed with the occult, cried out these last words at his time of death: "Lord, please help this poor soul." Those are fitting words from any dying lips. Aleister Crowley was a famous occult leader, a worshiper of Satan. He made this frightening cry on his deathbed: "I am perplexed. Satan, get out!" We can only imagine that for the first time he finally saw Satan as he really is. Those are frightening thoughts. Final words are important. Jesus spoke these most important words to the church as he was leaving the earth. Let's look at them again. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Those words reflect his great desire for the church to seek and save the lost. It was for that reason that he was born into this world, and it was that reason which led him to the cross, to seek and to save the lost. And as he left this world, he gave that mission to his church. And so for us, those are words of great urgency. Those words are a mission statement for the church. It's become popular for many companies and organizations to formulate a mission statement to describe their purpose, their reason for being. And that statement gives them a sense of direction. That statement helps them to stay focused on the task at hand. They will filter everything they do through that mission statement to make sure they are fulfilling their reason for existence. Here are some examples of such mission statements. The American Red Cross formulated this one: to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. Doesn't that describe exactly what the American Red Cross does and how well they do that? Being there for people all over the United States and throughout the world in times of their greatest need. Warby Parker, the eyeglass manufacturing company, formulated this mission statement: we believe buying glasses should be easy and fun. It should leave you happy and good looking with money in your pocket. We also believe that everyone has the right to see. Now, don't you think those should have been reversed? Don't you think their highest priority would be that everyone would be able to see well, so they should have stated that first instead of having fun and being easy and being happy and good looking? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like everyone being able to see well is the best, the greatest virtue. Here's what Barnes & Noble, the bookstore company, nationwide bookstore company, developed as their mission statement. Our mission is to operate the best specialty retail business in America, regardless of the product we sell. Did they just apologize for selling books and then say that they wanted to actually do that better than anybody else does anything? Nike's original statement, mission statement, when the company was first formed, was this: crush Adidas. Adidas was the leading sports shoe selling company at the time, and Nike wanted to crush their competition and rise above them, and they did. And they led the market for several years until an upstart British shoe company rose to the top, surpassing them. And then Nike changed its mission statement to target them, and crush Reebok became their rallying cry. I didn't realize that Nike was such a violent company. 5 of our high school boys are going to cross-country camp this week. Now, if you wear Nikes, gentlemen, maybe your mission statement is crush the opposition. But if you run in Reebok or Adidas, well, good luck. Our church has a mission statement that was formulated when this church was planted in 1982, and we've not changed a word of it since then. It reads this way: the purpose of this church shall be the carrying out of the Great Commission of Christ given in the New Testament Gospels. The church recognizes Jesus as the only head of the church and the New Testament as its only rule of faith and practice. As you can see, the mission statement of this church highlights the mission statement that Jesus gave to his church: to go into all the world and to make disciples. May we always be Great Commission Christians, reaching out in compassion, leading people to follow Jesus, making disciples in the world around us, remembering these final words of Jesus and feeling a sense of urgency about that mission in our spirits. Elisha Gray was an electrical engineer. He came up with an idea for an ingenious device and even built a prototype of it. He set that prototype up in the sanctuary of the church he attended, the Highland Park Presbyterian Church just outside of Chicago. The year was 1874. Gray had strung telegraph wire all throughout the church sanctuary and around the building. He believed that he could create this device and demonstrate its ability. He connected the wiring to this device, which he called a telephone, named after 2 Greek words, tele meaning far away and phone meaning voice. He believed that the human voice could be heard from far away, transmitted through those wires if it was connected to his invention. And it worked. And the people of his church were excited. They encouraged him to go immediately to the patent office and get a patent for his device. But he had a difficult time convincing investors to help him raise the funds necessary to build these machines. One of them told him it was a waste of time. A few others were willing to give any money for this project. He had difficulty raising capital, so he shelved his invention for 2 years, leaving it hanging in the church sanctuary. But it never left his mind. And after those 2 years, he did in fact go to the U.S. Patent Office, eager to tell of his success at the Highland Park Church. As he began to describe his invention, officials told him that another man named Alexander Graham Bell had just dropped off plans for a similar invention 2 hours before. Although Bell's plans did not contain a working prototype as Gray's did, courts awarded Bell the patent right because he arrived at the patent office 2 hours before Elisha Gray. Elisha Gray had left his vision hanging in the church building for too long. Right outside the doors of this sanctuary, if you were to go out, and I encourage you to do this morning, go out and turn around and you will look and you will see a large metal placard with these words stamped into it. The words of the Great Commission of Jesus telling us to go into all the world and make disciples. It would be disastrous if we merely left that vision hanging in the church building. We must take it out and put it into practice. The original disciples of Jesus heard his call and answered it with a sense of urgency. They made disciples in every nation of the Roman Empire and beyond. They changed the world around them by introducing people to Jesus. Those original disciples are gone now. We are his disciples of the current age. That mission that he gave to them is a mission that he gives to us. It is our mission now. Our world needs changed also by having people introduced to Jesus. Our mission is to seek and save the lost in this generation of people. And yes, I know that it's difficult to do. I know it's awkward. I know that we must step out of our comfort zone. I know there's a certain amount of fear that comes with doing that. But Jesus calls us out of a compassionate heart to take that message to those who do not have it, to seek and save the lost. On August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans. The city's flood protection levees were breached by walls of seawater. 80% of the city was submerged. Nearly 1,400 people lost their lives. Tens of thousands of others had no access to food or shelter or fresh water or medical help. Many were separated from their loved ones in the floodwaters. A few days after that happened, on September 5th, the Los Angeles Times carried the story about 7 children discovered walking through those flooded streets. They had become lost, separated from their families in the turmoil and confusion. One of them, a 6-year-old boy, guided the rest of the group. He carried a 5-month-old baby in his arms. 3 of those children were about 2 years of age. Another, a 3-year-old girl, led her 14-month-old baby brother by the hand through those floodwaters. The 6-year-old took care of all of them as he led them to safety. He told rescuers his name was Diamante love. He lived up to his name. He cared for those children. And 3 days later, all 7 of those children were reunited with their parents who feared they would never see them again. If a 6-year-old can rise above his fears and care for the lost and lead someone to salvation, so can we. Jesus issues the call to us as we are going throughout this world to make disciples. Answer his call. If you are not a follower of Jesus, then his call to you is slightly different. It's to become one of his disciples, one of his followers, to be baptized into him, to be taught in him, to grow in your faith in him, and to become a disciple whom he sends into this world to seek and save the lost. That is our mission. It is our mission statement. It should be the urgency of our heart to fulfill it. Let's be a Great Commission church. Stand with me if you will. Let's sing our closing song.